All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening or morning or afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. This is our final installment in our family webinar series hosted by College Programming and Orientation. My name is Samuel Schallenberger, he, him, his, and I'm the Assistant Director for Orientation and Student Development here in the college. I'll be serving as our moderator today as we discuss everything move-in and orientation week. We have representatives from across campus here to demystify the move-in process for you and make sure that you leave here today with all of your questions answered. And then we will also do a review of what to expect for both you and your student during orientation week. So we will have time for Q&A towards the end. We also have some questions that were submitted through the registration portal. So if you do have further questions throughout the presentation, you can utilize that Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to submit questions for our panelists to view and get answered for you. And other than that, we're going to go ahead and kick things off. I threw it in the chat, but today's webinar is being recorded, as are all of the webinars hosted by the CPO. So it will be posted shortly after to our website if you need to step away or just want to rewatch any portion of today's presentation or any of the ones that we've had in the past. Highly recommend it. At this time, I'm going to get our first presentation started with Paige Hicks from Housing and Residence Life, and I'm going to pass it over to Paige.
Good evening, everyone. I am super excited to spend some time with you all tonight and to share a little bit about housing and residence life and anticipating some questions around moving as well. So we're going to share our screen and we'll go ahead and get started. And so I'll go ahead and kick it off with a welcome. And so my name is Paige Hicks. I've been here for about a month and 1 week, and the campus is already buzzing and getting ready for your students to move onto campus. And so I'm excited to welcome our next class here and to support students. And so my hope tonight is that we are able to provide you with useful information on how we can thoughtfully partner together to support your students while they live on campus with us this academic year. And so in order to do that, I'll give a very broad overview of what it means to live on campus. And so one of the cornerstones of living on campus at the University of Chicago is that we have a house system, which is truly made up with our communities and traditions. And so traditions are really fundamental to building a vibrant house community. And so for my parents out there, please encourage your students to participate in house events. It really helps to bolster the house culture and what it means to live in one of our 48 houses. The houses participate in annual events such as a homecoming banner competition. I'm excited to see what it looks like this year, SCAV, and intramural sports. And so on a community level, your resident heads, and I'll get into what those staff members are in a minute, will do a lot to really create a meaningful experience for our students. And so some of the things that they'll do, weekly, they have study breaks for students where they're able to come together, relax, relate, connect, and really recharge. A group recently went to the Point and had s'mores, bonfires and barbecues. Staff and faculty have frequently invited guest lecturers to come in, talk about a topic. They'll bring food and students will really gather around for a fireside chat. But also they are exploring the larger city of Chicago and Hyde Park. And so they'll go downtown for restaurant trips, Super Bowl parties. There's so many things that the students are really doing to come together. And it really takes a village to create what this experience looks like. So I mentioned and I dropped a couple of names of some of the staff. And so I'll take a minute to go through each one. And so we have our resident deans that live on campus with our students in each of our communities. And so resident deans are truly senior faculty members who are tenured, who often live with their families. So it's not uncommon to see their partners or maybe their dogs, their loved ones in that space with them, engaging with your student. And so the resident deans act as intellectual stewards for their cluster of their houses. And so they work in tandem with the RHs and RAs to provide residents with an experience outside of the classroom. We understand that we have an opportunity to really marry that out of classroom experience to some of the things that they're learning inside. And so it complements this experience to really think about their intellectual and personal growth as young scholars. Also, we have assistant directors of residence life and assistant directors of operations. And so this core team really supports housing and residence life. And these are the groups of folks that if you ever have questions about what's going on, or hey, I want to connect with someone, we love if parents and students, if they have questions, to connect with their assistant directors. And so their assistant directors of residence life will help with any concerns that they may have as they are engaging and trying to build a trusting relationship. And our assistant directors for operations really help with thinking about any concerns that they may have in their room or the physical structure as well. For the resident heads, our resident heads are individuals or couples who have a primary connection to the university as a faculty member, staff, or an advanced graduate student who's pursuing a professional degree in that space. And so we have 48 couples and folks who are dedicated to really cultivating and creating that experience for our residential students. And then last but not least, we have our resident assistants, or RAs. And so our RAs are second or third or fourth or upper class students who are really committed to building relationships with students and working in tandem with the resident heads as well. They'll host study breaks and even movie nights, and find ways for folks to come together and connect with each other. And so while we're very intentional on what and how we're building community inside of the house, we know that we have a larger footprint around campus. And so in the dining hall, in our residential dining halls, you'll find house tables. And so students are encouraged to eat at their house table, and it's another way to connect and break bread, literally, in a different space with other folks inside the house. And so when they move on campus, they'll see that their house is represented at a table, and they can connect there. And then all residents are assigned a meal plan that allows them to connect and engage as well. I wanted to take a quick minute to share a little bit about student leadership. And so getting involved on campus is important, and Housing and Residence Life has an opportunity for students to connect and engage with us as well. And so each year or quarter, students will elect a house or hall council to really oversee event planning and discuss important house or hall issues that's going on. And so if students want to join this, we'll have more information about this when students move in. And these councils really work hard with the resident deans to plan events and discuss issues. And so they've done a number of really cool events in those spaces. Okay. I'll end my time here quickly by sharing a couple of tips as folks are transitioning to campus. And so for my students, I'm going to encourage you to read your email and check it consistently. Housing and Residence Life will frequently communicate with your UChicago email. And so if you're ever wondering like, how do I get involved, or I'm waiting to hear back on something, go ahead and log into your email and see if you have something. I want to encourage folks to get involved. Studies show that when students are connected and involved with a group or an organization on campus, it helps them to feel more connected to the institution as well. So join a club, join an organization, and last but not least, find time to connect and communicate with your professors, build that relationship. There's so many opportunities for folks to really work with faculty, and that's a great way to start. And then for my parents, and guardians, friends, family members who's thinking about how do I support my student as they go off to the University of Chicago, really want to encourage folks to provide emotional support. And so during this time, students may call with questions, fears, hesitations, am I doing it right? And so we encourage folks to really serve as a sounding board, but also recommend campus resources. There are a number of staff who work within Housing and Residence Life who are here to ensure that the transition for your student goes well. And so please encourage them to connect with their RA, their resident head, or even the resident dean to talk through some of those things. And with that, it's okay to make mistakes too. And so we are intentional in creating a learning environment here. And so as students have conversations and connect with us, we want to ensure that students are able to learn and grow and develop as they are living on campus. And then The last piece I'll share is really create trust. And so this may be the first time where the student is going off. Find ways on how you want to connect and engage with each other. Are you setting a boundary where it's like, okay, once a week we're on call, we're going to check in, we're going to text. Provide space for your student to learn and engage and think what that and kind of communicate what that looks like, and then check in when you can. All right, and last but certainly not least, I want to spend a couple of seconds just talking about move in. Move in is right around the corner, and we are really excited. And so just to quickly highlight unloading and parking, as I'm anticipating, we're gonna have a couple of questions about that. When you arrive to campus, you will pull into a temporary loading zone and unload your vehicle. And so there we'll have folks there to support you with unloading some of your items and then getting you to your space. And then you'll move your car or your vehicle to a designated parking location. And so as you are entering and navigating campus, we want to ensure, looks like my light just turned off. It's really excited about moving in. That's okay. We want to ensure that you're paying close attention to signs around move in and folks that will help direct you along the way. And so we'll have ample staff during this time, so you can always flag someone down and ask them a question. And then students will receive, students should refer to their move-in guide that's in their housing portal to learn a little bit more about frequently asked questions.
Thanks, Paige. Good evening, everyone. My name is Whitney Hedge, she, her pronouns. I'm the Associate Director for Orientation. This will be my 5th year helping with college orientation at the University of Chicago. And we just want to say thank you for joining us and taking your time tonight. And we can't wait to see you all on campus. And if not for orientation, hopefully we'll see you at Family Weekend coming up in October. Again, I work with college programming and orientation, your hub to the college this summer and through your students' experience at UChicago. Our goal is to connect students and families to the college while celebrating their significant milestones. So we work from orientation to family weekend to senior week graduation and everything in between. Our office has a touch point with your students. On the screen, feel free to screen grab it or write it down, but our office is super accessible. You can call or text our main line. You can email us, college-programming@uchicago.edu. Feel free to visit our website, or when you're on campus, stop by our office. Is on the 1st floor of Harper Memorial Library. So tonight I'm here to talk about college orientation, and the college has a phased approach to college orientation for our new students. So our goal is for orientation to build connections with students and families consistently from acceptance day all the way through the fall quarter. So many of you might have already been receiving communications from our office, exploring the online modules, attending webinars, etc. But our office believes in dosing a smaller amount of information consistently throughout the summer, and using a multi-pronged communication approach and utilizing our trained peer mentors to help you and your student transition to the college before you even arrive in September. Samuel, could I get you to advance the slide? Thank you. So like I said, we have a phased approach to orientation, and we are currently wrapping up phase 1, online orientation, which many of you probably experienced. Online orientation includes bi-monthly newsletters sent to emails of students and families, and every newsletter connected to an online learning module. Again, we had a student learning module, and we also have a family online course that you can still access and check it out. And then every newsletter module also tied into a webinar. So far, we've covered 9 different topics through online orientation, ranging from student wellness, financial matters, living on campus, academic advising, and many more. So we just wanted to highlight that copies of all communications and newsletters that have been sent to students and families are posted and archived on the orientation website, along with a link to the family online learning course if you're interested in checking that out, and to any recorded webinar we've hosted over the summer. There's also a link where you can go back and rewatch those resources. One other resource I wanted to point out, if you haven't found it, is the orientation to-do list, also posted on the website. And it just covers all of the items that your student would need to complete this summer and into the fall quarter to help them be a successful student at UChicago. So again, check that out if you haven't seen it. So phase 1, online orientation, we're wrapping it up, like I said, and now we're really excited to move into the second phase of programming, our in-person programming, College Orientation Week, also known as O Week. O Week began in 1934 as a way to introduce new students to the tradition and communities that make UChicago a unique destination for students all across the globe. O Week is a multi-day series of events, programs, and community meetings that provide new students with an in-depth overview of how the college works. Orientation Week is comprised of many different events and programs. We have mandatory events that all new students are required to attend, such as their academic advising and career advising group appointments. We have signature events that celebrate campus traditions like our Aims of Education address and opening convocation. We have several social events happening throughout the week and many late night social programs to help students meet their peers in their class and other upper class students, such as the Glow Party and College Night at the Museum of Science and Industry. And then we have a variety of optional programs that students can opt into based on their interests and likes. The orientation schedule will go live next week on Monday with our next orientation newsletter, and students will be able to access the full schedule of events and pick and choose which ones they'd love to get involved with. In addition to the schedule that they'll be able to download or have access to, students will also have an individualized appointment card. This appointment card that they will log into gives them their exact date and time of the locations that they will have mandatory appointments. So for our families, we're also really excited for you all to join us for our move-in dates and have some programming dedicated to you. We've coordinated many activities to take place on Tuesday, September 19th and Wednesday, September 20th, available to you and your student. One of our publications that we create for the year is our annual Family O Book. I have a printed copy here, and the digital copy is posted on the website, and we'll promote it in next week's newsletter. But this family orientation book has all of the insights and tools that you need to be successful when arriving on campus. As you can see on the screen, we have information about accessing the dining hall, accessing parking lots, accessing our orientation shuttles, and more. So just to highlight for you all, the college provides free, up to 8 free guest meals for students. They're already preloaded to their UCID card that they'll get at move-in, and they can bring in 8 guests throughout the 19th or 20th into any of those meal hours to join them in the dining hall. Any guests beyond those 8 would need to pay the door rate. Our office has coordinated several different free parking options on campus. Our 2 large parking garages will both be open and free, and several other open parking lots will be open and available for you all to park. Like Paige said, after you move in and you drop all your items off, you'll be encouraged to go park in those parking lots or park on the street where there is free parking. We have also coordinated a special shuttle that will be looping both Tuesday and Wednesday. Designated stops and hours are all outlined in this family orientation book. And it's to take you to most of the main residence halls on campus and back to the main quad area. So be sure to look out for that if you're interested in those shuttles. We've also requested that all guests will be able to access the UChicago shuttles as long as you're riding with a student. So if you can't find the orientation shuttle, you and your student can hop on the UGO shuttles that will be operating as well. And I just wanted to highlight, and again, on the map in the publication, we will have a map referencing all of the important stops, parking lots, and important locations for events happening on Tuesday and Wednesday. And so I quickly just wanted to highlight a few of the events happening for families on those 2 days. So there's many events happening both Tuesday and Wednesday. A lot of our campus partners are hosting open houses and drop-by events that I'd love to highlight. Offices such as the Spiritual Life Open House, Student Disability Services drop-in hours, Theater and Performing Arts is hosting an open house with their student productions. Our new Student Wellness Center will be open and available for people to tour. College Academic Advising Office will be open for tours, and many more. Also on Tuesday and Wednesday, we will have the VIP shopping event at the U Chicago bookstore where you can pick up all of your goodies and swag items that you might want. On Tuesday, September 19th, I would love to highlight for you all, there is an Odyssey Scholar and Fly family reception happening in the afternoon. They do ask for families to RSVP, and we'll be sure to send that link out in the next newsletter for anyone who's interested in attending that. Tuesday night, your students are invited to their first late night social program. So we encourage you all, families and guests, to spend the night in the city exploring Hyde Park and the local downtown area if you're interested. And then to highlight, on Wednesday, September 20th, this is our large opening day of orientation with all of our large signature traditional events. On Wednesday, all new students are required to check in to orientation within the Reynolds Club. During this time, please note that only students will be allowed to wait in line and to access the building. Families, we would ask you to wait across the street in Bartlett Quad, where we will provide free coffee and places for you to sit and hang while they go through their check-in process. When students are checking in, this is where they will receive their UPass card that gives them access to local CTA and transit options and their orientation gifts. From there, we encourage all of our families to head across campus to Ida Noyes for the orientation fair. We'll have several giveaways, lots of photo opportunities, maybe the mascot might stop by, make an appearance, and a chance for you to meet several offices across campus in our various tabling resource fair that's happening. We'll also provide luggage check on Wednesday, September 20th, should you need or want to drop any luggage off for the day. Another special event happening Wednesday is the Resident Dean Welcome Reception happening in the Veris Residence Hall. It's a great opportunity to go and meet the live-in professional staff that Paige mentioned, who will be there working with your student. And lastly, I'd love to highlight on Wednesday, September 20th is the annual college orientation opening convocation. This is one of our biggest events of the year, and I'm sure you've seen videos and pictures of it from students processing across campus and experiencing this once-in-a-lifetime class event. So students will join together, the whole class, in Rockefeller Chapel, and our families will watch a live stream from Harper Quad. Doors open at both venues at 2:45, and we ask that all students are seated by 3:15. This is where you would say your goodbyes to your student before they enter Rockefeller Chapel, as they will go straight from this program off to their nighttime programming. So be sure to say your goodbyes before you depart at Rockefeller Chapel, and then join us on Harper Quad for the live streaming. From there, students will march and parade all the way out of Rockefeller Chapel through the main quad up to their class photo, where we will all be cheering them on and welcoming them to campus. Families, you will be immediately directed to our family reception happening over in Hutchinson Courtyard, hosted by the university president and college dean. We'll provide snacks, drinks, some giveaway items, photo opportunities as one last hurrah for you before you depart campus. So Samuel, if you wanted to click on that link, I'm not sure if it's opening. If not, it's linked on the website too. This is the guide I mentioned, everybody. It is on the website, and we will promote it in the next newsletter. But this has all of the information I just reviewed, including accessing the dining hall, parking, shuttle information, the schedule for all of the families, and some other fun information you might be interested in checking out. So we can for sure drop this link in the chat as well, and you can go ahead and start browsing that. We will have printed copies available at move-in and the orientation events happening both the days. So just to highlight for you all where you can find the schedule, where a student can find the schedule, we are using a phone app called Guidebook. And the links to download it are on our website, or you can take a picture of the QR code right there to download the app. All you need to do is search U Chicago College Orientation, open the guide, save it to your phone, and you'll have access to the full schedule. You won't see anything right now because, again, the schedule isn't live, but next week you would be able to see the full schedule. And last thing I wanted to share is just looking ahead. I know O Week is coming up first with move-in, but we would love to encourage all families, if you're able to, come back and join us for Family Weekend. Registration is now open, and it's October 13th through the 15th. And another program to highlight for you to encourage your student to attend is Taking the Next Step. on October 23rd, which is a career advancement program specific to first years that connects them with young alumni and employees about career exploration. So those two events are happening in October that we encourage you and your student to take advantage of. And I will pass it back to Samuel.
Perfect. Thank you both so much. We also have a couple additional members of Housing and Residence Life joining us for the Q&A portion. So I would like to welcome Alora and Mason also to our webinar. And I'm going to be tossing out some of the questions that we've received through the Q&A function, as well as some of the questions that were sent to us through the registration form for today's webinar. So we're going to get started with just a couple basically reviewing just extensive move-in questions, more additional OE questions. And we are going to start off with a little bit of a move-in question for Alora. This parent or family member can't remember what time their move-in appointment is. Where can that be found? And how important is it that they arrive at that exact time?
Yeah, that's a good question. So all students should have received an email confirming their move-in time that they selected through the My Housing portal. So they can search their email inbox. They can also access that information through the My Housing portal. And that information will be displayed there for a period of time. They can also reach out to us at housing@uchicago.edu if they need us to send that email to them again. We can forward it to them, but there are multiple ways to find that information. In terms of adhering to the time slot, we do ask that students adhere to it as much as possible. We recognize that life happens and sometimes, traffic happens, you may get delayed, or you may arrive a little bit early. We just ask that you try to stick to that time slot to help us control the flow of traffic, as there is such a large influx of students moving in. And we want to make sure that everyone is having the best experience that they can while they are moving in, and controlling traffic is key to making sure that process goes smoothly for everyone.
Perfect. Thank you. And then with that time, is there a time frame for move-in? So for example, like the 2 hours after your scheduled time, some of our parents and family members were maybe a little bit nervous about the amount of time that their student will have to actually move in.
Yeah, so that time frame is more so for you physically going to the check-in location, and for the majority of residence halls is at your main entrance front desk. And for others, some weather permitting, there will be satellite tables right outside of the main entrance. It will be very clearly marked, but most of them will be at the front desk. It's just for you to physically get your key and check in, and you'll get your ID at that time as well. You will continue to have time to move things into the building, and you're not required to stop once that 2-hour time frame is complete.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, kind of keeping with move-in, but we have about a third of our incoming class who participate in pre-orientation. So quite a few of our family members may be getting ready to say goodbye a little bit earlier, even to their student, if they are arriving starting next week for pre-orientation. What does that move-in process look like?
Yeah, I can take that one. So students who are moving to campus early for pre-orientation, they will actually get to move into their term time dorm room on Monday, September 18th. So they get to move in a day early and get settled. I will drop in the chat. We have a website created with information about how we can store their luggage and what that move-in period looks like. But they have to be out of their temporary room assignment in the morning. Then they will head to a brunch or lunch to conclude their pre-orientation program, and then they'll have all evening, afternoon to finish setup. We'll also offer a free social activity that evening for any students who are around and want to join other students. Maybe their families aren't with them, or they'd like to just get out and meet more students. We'll have another social program that night for them, but they get to move in on the 18th.
Perfect. And as a just general reminder, so the earliest that students are going to be moving in could be for pre-orientation on the 18th. And the latest that students should finish their move-in is by noon on Wednesday, September 20th, as O-Week programming begins. So just keep that in mind. Where do we park for move-in? Where is the car going to go while we're completing all of this? Alora or Mason?
Sure. So good evening, everyone. When you are arriving with your vehicle, the big thing to note is that someone needs to be with the vehicle at all times. So if you are coming alone with your student, it is also important that you flag someone down with a staff HRO t-shirt to let them know that you will need extra assistance in taking the things out of your vehicle because you cannot leave it unattended. So the way that the structure goes is you will pull up in front of the residence hall, you will unload your vehicle, or someone with you will assist your student with unloading it while you stay with the vehicle. As soon as that vehicle is unloaded completely, you will then move to one of the designated parking areas that Whitney went over that will be in your newsletters to park your vehicle. And then there will be shuttles from those locations so that you can come back closer to the residence hall so you can go back to be with your student. You just are not allowed to park in our loading zones, which for, again, students who are moving in are all of the areas directly around our residence halls. You cannot park there. For areas such as Snell Hitchcock, Renee Granville Grossman, Woodlawn, Burton Judson, and International House, there is street parking along the Midway Pleasance, but we do caution that parking is first come, first serve. And because you all are moving in during the week, that parking can be taken by the time your move-in slot is allotted.
Perfect. Thank you. And then if a student wants to loft their bed, how do they submit a work order for that? And can it be completed before their move-in date?
Yeah, I'll take that question. So unfortunately, we cannot do it before the move-in date. However, at every building, there will be a sign-up sheet for students who are looking to have their bed. We call it lofting. It's not truly lofting. It's extending the height of the bed to their desired height. Most students do to the top, which is leaves 36 inches of clearance underneath. And that sign-up sheet will be available at the front desk area of every building. Our facility services team makes an effort to get that done within 48 hours. And then if you choose later, if you're not sure if you want to extend the height of your bed and you choose to do so later, you can submit a work order and facility services will address that within 48 hours.
Perfect. Thank you. And you answered another question that we received, which was, what is the maximum height under the bed for storage? In terms of things that students may want to store, can they bring something like a Keurig? Can they bring an electric kettle? What sort of morning caffeine beverages are we going to be able to make in these rooms?
Yeah, so we allow anything that has an automatic off switch and does not have a hot plate. So Keurigs are okay. That's the most popular item I can think of. A typical like Mr. Coffee Pot would not be permitted because of that hot plate, even if it has the automatic off switch.
Gotcha. If we have parents and family members watching who have not received any of our orientation newsletters thus far, how can they start receiving those and where can they catch up on what has already been sent, Whitney?
Yeah, so we utilize the data that your student has imported in their my.uchicago portal. So encourage your student to take a look at their family and parent contact information and edit it if needed. And that is where we pull all of our data. All of the orientation communications are archived on the orientation website, orientation.uchicago.edu. You can see all of the communications that have been sent to students, and then specifically all of the ones that have been sent to families. This is something unique to our office in that we archive all of our communications. Once the academic year begins, those communications are not archived on the website. So make sure your student gets that information updated so you're not missing out on any important emails from the college.
Perfect. And then for both move-in and a week, parking, is it overnight? When does it open, depending on which day you arrive? What does that look like for a week and move-in, Whitney?
Yeah, so technically we have the two large garages will be open on Monday, the 18th. So if you're helping your student move in on Monday, the two garages, there's one on campus north and one on the south near Kimbark. Those will be open starting Monday, and they will not close until Thursday morning. So technically you could park your car overnight in those garages. We just encourage you to be safe about your car and where you leave it if you feel comfortable leaving it there, but technically they will be open. On Tuesday, the rest of the parking lots that are open surface lots, those will open and be available Tuesday and Wednesday.
Thank you. In terms of measurements, is there a way to find out if a certain item will fit in a dorm room? For example, a full-length mirror. Can they find dimensions for things like that, as well as their bed itself?
So unfortunately, we do not keep dimensions of the rooms. And the reason for that is all of our buildings are different and all of the rooms have a slightly different configuration. So that means that it's not consistent across the board. I cannot say whether or not an item is going to fit because it really does depend on what all the student is bringing. Is there room for a full-length mirror? More than likely with the furniture that is provided. It really depends on kind of what the student has though and how they want the room laid out. But I would venture to say that yes, a full-length mirror would fit.
Perfect, thank you. And when we're moving all this stuff into the rooms, is there assistance? Are there staff members who are able to help with all of these belongings getting put into all of the residence halls?
So we do have an amazing team of orientation aides as well as our resident heads who will be around during opening for the 19th and the 20th for Tuesday and Wednesday. It is imperative that I share that while our orientation aides are there to push the cart and assist you with keeping items on the cart, they do not physically carry your stuff out of the cart. So they will assist you in getting those belongings into the cart. They will help get the cart to your either external entrance of the house or to your door itself. And then it would be the responsibility of the student and their helpers to physically take their things out.
Gotcha. Yes, unpacking is a very personal experience. It'll be their first step of college. It's very exciting. When it comes to pre-orientation room assignments, several students will be living in the same dorm for term time as is being utilized for pre-orientation. So are students moving into a temporary room if that is their term time residence hall, or will be their permanent room in the residence hall for pre-orientation? What do those room assignments look like?
Yeah, so if your student has a room assignment in Woodlawn for the year, it is 95% likely that their room that they move into when they arrive for PREO will be their permanent room assignment, that they won't have to stay in temporary. We can't guarantee that. Heaven forbid there needs a maintenance issue or something that needs to be fixed ahead of the large move-in, but we are pretty positive that students who live in that in Woodlawn will be able to move into their assigned room once they arrive for PREO. That is our goal, our ultimate goal.
And as that move-in starts creeping up on us and we want to get some things to dorm rooms ahead of time, can students begin shipping different belongings or orders?
Yes, so we are receiving parcels ahead of time. Any parcels that are received prior to Monday, September 18th will be delivered in the student's room ahead of their arrival. If for some reason a student checks in and realizes that a parcel is missing from their room, that's okay. You can go to the front desk beginning Thursday, September 21st at 8 a.m. to check. The reason that we ask for a delay in that is because of the number of things that our desk clerks are doing during move-in. They do not have the capacity to conduct check-in and also manage the mail aspect of it. And so we do ask that students wait for a few days, but all parcels delivered prior to the 18th should be delivered in room.
Perfect. And a little bit about community in the houses as well. There will be students who are living in a single room. How do you encourage how students can engage in their residence hall, in their house with other students in O week and beyond if they're living in a single?
That's a fantastic question. For our students who are in singles, I know that we have quite a few first years who were like really hoping for a double and got a single, which, you know, sometimes they come around, they're like, no, this is the best room ever. Thank you for that. When they hear about their friends who are not necessarily getting along with their roommates. But that's what our RAs and our resident heads are really there for. So your students, whether they arrive Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, will have a house meeting on Wednesday night where they will again meet their house, get to meet their resident heads and resident assistants, and you all will meet them during move-in as well. And they'll talk about kind of what's happening, what's going on, and they'll really get that camaraderie going. Another great thing about our OAs is that they are there to assist the peer leaders in making sure that your students are connected. And normally the house goes to events together. They'll walk wherever the event is. They'll get connections going. They'll eat in the dining hall together. Those connections do form whether or not a student is in a single or a double. They are living next to a bunch of people. I'll use Burton Judson or iHouse as an example. While there are a ton of singles in those buildings, there are also a ton of rooms that are right next to each other. And so our resident heads and our resident assistants do a great job at encouraging those students to talk to one another, creating moments where they can get to know and interact so that by the time the first day of school rolls around, they actually have a group of people that they're just like, yes, I can talk to these people. I feel like I've started my community. We focus a great deal on building that community aspect over the first 6 weeks.
Perfect. Thank you. For O week itself, do parents and family members need to sign up for the events, or do they just show up? And is that the same for students?
For students, well, for yes and no for both. For families, there is no overall registration. You just show up. There is one event that we do ask for a RSVP. That's the Odyssey and Fly family reception on Tuesday, September 19th. That will have a specific RSVP link, but all of the other events are open for any families and guests to join us. For students, you are already registered into your mandatory appointments. For any of the optional programs, they might have RSVP. Those will all be linked within the app. So if you download the app and you access the schedule, you'll be able to click on each event and open it up, and it'll say if there's RSVP or not for some of those optional events.
For parents and family members who are saying goodbye to their student during O week, that communication process, in your personal opinion, any of you really, but do you recommend contacting the student directly during orientation week to check in? Do you wait until it's over and let them kind of experience it all first? What does that sort of separation process look like for you all that you see students succeed with?
So I think for me, from the residence life side, I think it depends on the relationship with your students. We have students who become very involved and very excited about O week activities, meeting students, and they are, you know, really not looking at their phones to the dismay of parents, guardians, friends. They are just really trying to immerse themselves in the college experience. And we have other students who are very homesick very quickly. And so the minute that you all will leave, they are wanting that phone call, they're wanting to text, they're wanting to kind of connect, they're wanting to do that FaceTime call and kind of asking when the next time you're coming back. And so it really just depends on your student. I would strongly advise kind of you all have those conversations even before you leave, right after you leave, just to kind of set that expectation so that everybody's on the same page. We always give the example of normally like the first week of class, we have quite a few parents who are just like, where's my student? It's 7 a.m. They're not answering the phone. And we find those students very much asleep to the chagrin sometimes of their family because they've just had a great first week. And so it does happen, but it is really about everyone being on the same page and setting proper expectations.
Definitely. In advance of move-in or just during the academic year, if we are ordering things to the residence hall, how can students find the address that they need to input on their Amazon order, on any order that they're hoping to have shipped to them?
Yes, so on our housing website, there on the main page, if you scroll down to the bottom, there is an individual page for each building. If you click on the page for your residence hall, the address, the official mailing address is listed there for each building. It is important that students include their legal first name and last name, as well as their room number with the correct building address. And that's how we can get those things to the appropriate place. Once a parcel has been processed, and it does take us 24 to 48 hours to do that. Generally, it's within 24. Students will receive an email from our office to confirm that that parcel has been processed and to let them know where to pick up the package. Most of our residence halls have mail rooms, but there are some that do not. And for those buildings, mail can be picked up at the front desk.
Perfect. And then on, any of you can really speak to this, but what should a new student's parent know as we prepare for move-in and O week when it comes to their relationship with their student? And what things should parents and family members be doing right now?
I can jump in quickly and hopefully folks can add. I think parents can definitely, as you're preparing to move on campus, bring a lot of energy and excitement. This is a wonderful time, but also patience too. And so there's going to be a lot of folks navigating campus at the same time. And then please encourage your students to attend some of those events and activities. And so our resident deans and resident heads have spent a lot of time really planning for folks to come and stop by. And so we're excited to welcome students and some of the parents to those events as well.
I would just reiterate, talking to your student and making a plan for communications, making sure your information is in their portal so that you can receive college emails when those are released. Talking with your student on how often you two plan on communicating throughout the week. Are we just going to text? Are we going to have a weekly call? What does this look like now that you are moving into a new space, a new city? And then another, encouraging your student to keep on time and on track of their important deadlines and tasks. For orientation, we had the orientation to-do list. There isn't a comprehensive list like that once the academic year begins. So checking in with your student, do they know when the add drop period is? Are they aware of when pre-reg happens? Do they know when their next mandatory online learning module is due for the health and wellness modules, etc.? So just making sure, your student is aware of those deadlines and helping them navigate what that looks like and completing tasks that are outside of the classroom and coursework.
Gotcha. And then for parents and family members who are traveling to Chicago for move-in and O week, but will be in the city during O week, can they see their student?
Of course, you can see your student, yes. They might be pretty busy and booked up though, so you might have to make an appointment to meet with them. Just kidding, but you can, of course, can see them. We do have programming all day, every day, beginning at 8 a.m. all the way up until 11 p.m. So many opportunities for students to explore campus, explore the city, and meet new friends. And that's what we encourage them to do during O week.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah, get on your student's schedule in their planner, in their phone, if you need to see them, because they're going to be busy. And then I see that we have a few more specific questions that are receiving answers from our various panelists right now in the Q&A function. So I'll give everyone time to kind of wrap those up, but just sort of as nearing the end question for you all. What is your best piece of advice for parents and family members right now as we begin to go into this period of transition and embark on this journey with them?
I guess I would say don't overpack. It's easier to buy what you need afterwards than to send too much and try to get it back in your suitcase to fit on a plane if you are out of state and you did not drive. trust the process. College is a new experience and it affects everyone differently. And while the media portrays this great moment when you go to college and you meet all your best friends and they end up in your wedding, years later, that's not always students' experience. And so understanding that they will find their space, they will find their people, but they might not find it the first week. And that's okay. I think it's a different conversation if after a quarter, the first 9 weeks, they don't find kind of their people, but the first week, I wouldn't fret too much. It does happen. And I think the last thing I would just say is people are going to make mistakes. Students make mistakes. It happens. It's okay. Specifically in residence life, we're here to, again, have intentional conversations with students to ensure that they know that there's a path forward. And so your students are in great hands. We do our best to really honor and curate an amazing student experience. And as always, we're here to support you all, but most certainly we're here to support your students.
Perfect.
I'll echo everything Mason shared. And so I'm excited to welcome students, and there's a talented team, not only with Housing and Residence Life, but around the university and the college to support your students. So we're excited to bring them here and help them transition as well.
And just to reiterate, there is a lot going on. I think we have over 160 events scheduled between the 17th all the way up through the end of the first week of classes. So lots of opportunities for your student to check out all of the various programs across campus. So you as a family talking with your student and encouraging them and asking, what did you experience? What's something new? Like, what did you explore? There's so many different programs and experiences that they can check out. So encouraging them to do so.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much. I see that we still have a couple more questions getting typed answers, so I'll allow you a second to do that. But as you can see, my once radiant, beautiful natural light that I started this webinar with is dwindling here in Chicago as it gets deeper into the evening. And so we are going to wrap up and say major thanks to all of you for joining us, and thank you to each of our panelists. We greatly appreciate you all being here with us. As always, this entire presentation has been recorded and we will post it to our incoming student communications page shortly. And again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out, and we will see a lot of you on campus very, very shortly. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.